Yes. Okay. 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 And I see the visuals. Yeah.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Masachaba Kumalo from the Office of Minister Nathi Mthethwa, and I will be facilitating today's media briefing. We welcome you all, but just to let you know that the briefing is slightly delayed as we allow for time to wrap up the presidential events that are taking place as we speak, as you can see live on the news right now. So we should commence in the next 5 minutes. Thank you.
Colleagues, good afternoon. William Balo is my name. Those who have cell phones like me, just put them on silent. I think we'll be starting very soon. Actually, we are ready to start.
Because it's in their interest. I think these are the things that we need to standardize so that we are supposed to provide.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Masachaba Kumalo from the Office of Minister Nathi Mthethwa, the Minister of Sport, Arts and Culture. I welcome you all today on this day that the Minister is here to give an update on the developments with the Presidential Employment Stimulus Program, the PESP. I'd like to welcome officially the Honourable Minister of Sport, Arts and Culture, Nathi Mthethwa. I'd also like to acknowledge our Acting Director General from the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture, Vusitemba Ndima, as well as our Deputy Director General, Dr. Cynthia Kumalo from the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture, who joins us here today, and the Acting CEO of the National Arts Council, Julie Tipofa, who is here with us as well today. So before I allow the Minister to come onto the platform, just to make you aware that we are live streaming in line with the COVID-19 health regulations. The links have been sent and shared on all of our official platforms. And we will be issuing out a statement on the basis of the address that the Minister will be giving here this morning. You are more than welcome to also find it on www.dac.gov.za as well as www.rssa.gov.za. You will also be allocated an opportunity for a Q&A session, and we will allow for questions, and where Minister as well as the panel that is here today will be providing answers to the best of our abilities in the course of the program as well. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome the Honourable Minister Nathi Mthethwa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Program Director, Master Chaba, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The Acting Director General of the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture, Vosindima with the DDG, of the department, Dr. Cynthia Khumalo, the acting CEO of NAC, arts and culture practitioners, members of the media. This media briefing today has been convened to give update on the presidential economic stimulus package, budget allocation to our department, but will also take this opportunity to also give feedback on the third phase of the relief program by the department. As all of us know, that the PESP for our sector mainly, its main objective was to stabilize the sector and ensure that jobs are created in the sector to, soften the impact of COVID-19 to arts and culture practitioners. So the department entrusted the administration of the Presidential Employment Stimulus Program to the National Arts Council. The department received allocation of 665 million rands from the National Treasury through, in September 2023, September, and commenced with the processing in October last year after the announcement of the PSP by the President on the 15th of October. So budget allocation, the breakdown thereof, was such that 300 million went to National Arts Council, which is NAC, 150 million went to National Film and Video Foundation, NFVF, and 60 million to Sports Trust, whose objective, as I said, was mainly to create jobs. This was according to what we have agreed on within government. A balance of 165 million went towards sports compliance project, heritage presidential economic stimulus program projects, and arts and culture PSP projects implemented mostly with provinces. The department issued grant letters and signed MOUs with all the above implementing agencies, agreed on a conceptual framework and process maps to be utilized in implementing this very important program. The MOU with the National Arts Council was signed on the 2nd of November 2020, and the National Arts Council commenced with an open call on the 30th of October to November 2020, immediately upon receipt of the grant letter. Subsequent to this, a group of adjudicators, those who were part of the process of adjudication, complained about how the process was handled, and this then landed with the new council for their further attention. You know, ladies and gentlemen, that entities like National Arts Council are governed by the board or a council which has fiduciary duty over them and doing oversight over the agency. The new council, starting from the 1st of January 2021, sought answers from the NAC on developments with the disbursement process. The council did not receive straightforward answers and responses from the NAC. The story kept on changing from time to time when they were asked what was happening. And as a result, the council took a decision on the 1st of March 2021 to they took a decision earlier this year to hold disbursement process until further legal advice, because the council was not receiving assistance from the NAC management. They then took a decision to suspend the CEO and the CFO on the 1st of March 2021. Subsequently, they discovered that budget as allocated was mismanaged by the NAC, mainly by way of overcommitment of the available funds that were allocated to creative sector organizations by more than double the allocated amount in their possession. And I think, ladies and gentlemen, I want to clarify this point, because we've heard in the media that there's 300 million rands which is missing. Money is not missing. People over-committed the money, the funds were given to them. And I think that point must be made very clear, because 300 million rands is still there. Part of it is still there. Part of it has been disbursed already, and part of it is being disbursed. So there's nothing like money which disappeared. No money disappeared. So I think we must emphasize that point. Now, if I can make an example, the NAC, in its overcommitting of the funds that were allocated to us artists by double allocated amounts in their possession. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the crux of the problem we are faced with. And this is where we need action. And this is where we are going to take action. Yes, the senior management has been suspended, but that is not enough. As a result of this, I have instructed the department to do a deep forensic investigation about this matter, so that whoever transgressed in mismanaging funds is brought to book. We are going to do that, and we are promising in an uncompromising way that we are going to pursue this to the bitter end, to ensure that at the end of the day, the creatives who are suffering today and are protesting all over the country, who have been done injustice with this action, those who did that have to face the full wrath of the system and the law, so that a lesson is learned that we cannot have a situation where we want government to reach out to the sector and want to help the sector, but people who are responsible do other things. We are also told that part of this mismanagement, some people who had applied have been given more than what they had applied for. And again, all those things will have to come out through the process of investigation. But my focus is not only on the management and the staff of NAC. We are also focusing on those who were supposed to have done the fiduciary duty on this matter, because management was not doing things alone. An oversight body was there, and people have to answer to that in particular. In the past few weeks, whilst this whole thing was unfolding, we have been trying to see where we can get additional funds to cover the shortfall. Because, ladies and gentlemen, the problem with 300 million rands is the shortfall. Is the shortfall as a result of over budget and over committing the budget which NAC made. So we have engaged with the National Treasury and we have not been successful to that, especially because of the economic climate we find ourselves in, the financial constraints which we are faced with, but also they are raising the issue of the mismanagement, that, well, this is mismanagement as we have seen it and we know it. So that is why we are taking the step that we've got to get to the bottom of this and people pay for what has happened. To this extent, we emphasize the need to process the investigation. I've said that the department should ensure that this week the process starts of procuring whatever, but the process starts of the forensic investigation, so that by the time we come back from the Easter, appointments would be done in accordance with the rules and regulations around this matter. But as the minister ultimately responsible, I would ensure that the successful rectification of this unacceptable dilemma, which is created, man-made, I first want to issue an unconditional apology to the sector as a whole for what I would say, for being let down as government by our entities, in this instance by the National Arts Council. Let down and in the process exposing the most vulnerable sector in our society during this period of COVID-19. It's vulnerable because it was the first one to shut down, to close shops. It's going to be the last one, especially because of the pandemic and what we are told now as the third wave coming our way. So we want to apologize on that, but we want to say that we are not sitting on our laurels on this matter. We are going to continue searching where we can get assistance financially, because at the end of the day, we want to ensure that the relief, the assistance, which is supposed to come the way of the practitioners, do come their way, as it were. But we also want to have a very special focus on National Arts Council. As you know that we are starting the new financial year, we want to see how can we reprioritize the grant we give to National Arts Council in ensuring that we deal with this situation. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are at that insofar as the matter of the presidential economic stimulus package or program is concerned. I want to end, as I said earlier on the third phase of relief, which is the last point. The department received on the third phase of the relief, this is alongside the PESP, over 6,000 applications for the third phase, and has adjudicated about 4,000 of these, focusing on individual applications as the first priority. Processing of payments to the 2,300 recommended individual applicants that for now have met all requirements will commence this week. The department will be starting transfer of payment batches to Business Arts South Africa, which is the entity which is disbursing funds to the artist, who will be doing the actual payment that will start from today. And it is anticipated that all the recommended applicants that have so far been adjudicated successfully will be paid by the end of the week. As adjudication continues and is finalized, more applicants are expected to benefit from the third phase. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention. But I want to say that as I sit down, that it is important that we try and unpack a bit about this 300 million rands. What has been disbursed? Where are we now? How many people had applied in the first place and organizations, so that when we take time for questions, you would have had this understanding, so that this idea of money is disappearing is addressed adequately. I'll ask the Acting Director General to come up with that specific information, and thereafter we'll open it up for question and answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. Members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe just to start by indicating, by just emphasizing the point once again that there isn't any money that is missing, as the Minister has indicated. It was the overcommitment of the funds. And maybe let me then start by indicating where we are currently. What the National Arts Council received in the form of applications, it's about 1,374. And as they went through those applications, they also could see that there were some kind of duplications, but the number that they have kind of concretized now, it's 1,208. Now, out of this number, 505 beneficiaries have been paid. This week, they have received about 318 that will be paid in the next 3 days. That would then say, numerically, we will have paid 823 beneficiaries. And the balance that will be left will be 385. I just thought that maybe it's very important that one begins to indicate that despite all the trials that we have gone through, work is continuing, there is work that is proceeding. Minister, I would want to maybe stop here unless there are other further additions that my colleagues might want to come and emphasize. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, ADG Wusithemba Ndima. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister Nathi Mthethwa. So, ladies and gentlemen, we will now be taking questions from the floor and allow for the panel to respond to questions. Yes, ma'am, please introduce yourself, your name, your organization, as well as your question. One question per journalist, please. Thank you. The lady with the beautiful fawn jacket, is that a gentleman? Yes, sir. Excuse me a second. The ADG is just making a correction. Excuse me.
Thank you, Master Shaba. Words are very important. I said 1,374 received. It's 1,374 initially approved applicants. So I just want to correct that, because if I leave it uncorrected, yes, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much for that, ADG. That saves us time. So just to go to the gentleman in the beautiful fawn jacket. I'm sorry, you're so good looking. I thought you were a woman. Yes, sir.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
First of all, I would like to thank the Minister for all the attempts that the department has made during the COVID. I mean, he started with the first phase of relief, there was the second phase of relief, and he came back with now, thank you. He came with the third phase of relief. But I would like to address the PESP issue. This was not supposed to be the relief. It was supposed to assist projects that were earmarked to change the industry forever. And there were beautiful ideas that were presented from different organizations. Unfortunately, the NAC turned the whole project that the Minister and the President had worked hard for to a mere relief again. Because of the monies were cut from what was promised to have, and also the whole process was not done in the manner that it was supposed to be. For an example, we don't even now have confidence in terms of the whole adjudication process. By the way, I am from Digital Media Solutions, and I'm an artist as well. So we would like to know from the Minister in terms of what does the department now have in place to assist the projects. Because of what has turned now, the artists will always rely on the government forever. Because of we missed the train of changing the economy of the industry for good. And we would like to know from the Minister in terms of now focusing on projects, what is the Minister planning to do in ensuring that at least we go back to where things are supposed to be. Thank you.
What is your name, sir?
My name is Owen Drove.
Owen Drove. All right, thank you so much. All right, let's get another question in. Yes, ma'am.
Zikona Chana from Newsroom Africa. I just want to know, where did the confusion with this 300 million come from? Where did it start? And then, Minister, there are people calling for you to resign. What is your response to that?
Thank you. We'll take one more before allowing for the Minister to respond. Of course, some of the questions will most likely be answered either by the acting CEO of the NAC or the acting DG or our DDG, who's also presently here. Gentleman in the pink shirt, yes?
Hi, Minister. My name is Manuel from PNC. I just wanted to ask in terms of the investigation that you're starting, are there any possible criminal charges that may be laid in this investigation? And secondly, will there be any steps to try and recoup some of these monies, especially the fact that you have mentioned that there have been overpayments to some of these beneficiaries. So will there be any steps to try and recoup some of these monies?
All right, thank you. I think we should allow for the Minister to respond and for any one of our panelists who is best suited for either of the responses to also step in. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the questions, starting with Ndlovu. Thank you so much. I think your understanding is very correct that we have, right from the beginning of the lockdown, decided that we reprioritize our budget so that we address the plight of the artists in this instance. Not only artists and athletes, but we're talking about the artists here. And indeed, as the name says, the presidential economic stimulus package was just that. It was a stimulus package because it looked at the sustainability of the industry, it looked at the capacity of the practitioners to be enhanced so that they are able to stabilize the sector economically, so that they are able to, through their project proposals, create jobs. That was the main reason for the PESP. And indeed, you are correct that right now it's seen as it's seen as another relief, which was not the intention. And you will understand that because of this committing of the budget, of the commitment of the budget, a shortfall has been created, and that shortfall is also being dealt with within that very limited, finite budget of 300 million rands. That is why then what was supposed to be a bigger idea for sustainability of the sector then became something else, which was the relief. And it's a problem we are faced with, which I must say that in approaching the National Treasury, in looking at going forward at reprioritizing the very budget of NAC, we're trying to plug in the gaps, in the holes which have been created by people who are in this instance the NAC. I don't know where the confusion comes from, Zikona, but I've seen that other people, I think because of not knowing, ignorance perhaps, of what is happening. So that's why it was important to come and clarify that point here. And because of this, that you have this thing of 300 million looted and so on, then you must resign. Well, we are in a democratic country. People have their democratic rights to call for anybody to resign and do whatever. But what is important is that people must base their calls on very definite and specific things, as it were. So far, there's been more of confusion and what people say, and others really peddling of the problem. The major thing is that the artists are under severe strain as we speak, and that's the major thing. And that's what worries us all the time. That's what we think about. Any other thing, we're not going to be distracted. We'll be focused on the task at hand. And the task at hand is, how do we respond to this question? Now, during the lockdown and beyond the lockdown, how do we bring about that sustainability? The sector, as I said, is one sector which has been shut down totally. Other sectors, as you know, we went through the lockdown process from last year, partially were opened and some of them almost opened all and so on. But you have a sector which is shut down. And as a result, there's going to be a lot of hardships. There's going to be a lot of anger. And we understand that anger from people. And that anger will do anything and say anything, including calling for the minister to resign. But the problem of COVID-19 is the problem which is facing us as a country, facing the world, and we will continue as the department to do everything in our power to ensure that we address and respond to the plight of artists. There is no way that we are indifferent about what is happening. We know exactly what is happening, and we will do all that we can on this. Mangoba, I heard your first question about whether it would be criminal. The second one I didn't get. But
Just asking whether you have any plans to recoup some of the monies, especially you mentioned the fact that some of these beneficiaries were overpaid or double paid. So will there be any efforts to try and recoup these monies?
Well, firstly, let me answer the first question. It will depend how far the forensic audit goes. And that audit is going to guide us. It's going to guide all of us, whether at the end of the day is purely administrative transgressions, but we take this very seriously because whether administrative or whatever, people have suffered as a result. Practitioners in the sector are suffering as a result, and they have gone to lengths to register their dissatisfaction and their frustration about this. So that's the thing, and we definitely want the forensic to be thorough. Recouping, maybe they would say that, and so on, but you know, there is a sense that giving somebody more than what that person wanted cannot be seen as a mistake. I don't want to believe it is a mistake. And therefore, you are burdening somebody who knew what he or she wanted, and you just lended a windfall to that person. And that person is seen as a transgressor. There's some unfairness there. But all of these things will have to be unpacked thoroughly in the process of investigation, and the recommendations which are going to come as a result of that investigation. Thank you.
Just to add.
Please do.
Good afternoon, Minister, colleagues from the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture. Good afternoon to our Honorable Council Member, Tshepo, and good afternoon to you, the media. Just to add and also help to clarify some of the issues that the Minister has raised, particularly coming from the question that Owen asked. It is indeed true that when PSP was introduced, it was really meant to inject funds into the economy. It was a stimulus project. Stimulate projects into the art sector, increase revenue, wage subsidies, create employment opportunities. That was indeed the initial intention of the PSP project. We had Stream 1, which was a wage subsidy based at a guiding figure of 16,600. We also had Stream 2, which was really project based. We were looking at really artistic projects that are really creative, transformative to the sector, covers a geographic spread, includes people that are marginalized, women, youth, people with disabilities, and so forth. And that was actually to be supported with a 25,000 rand guiding figure. However, at the onset of the challenges that we faced, from the approval phase that happened from January onwards, with the coming of the new council, there were 761 applications that were approved, that were adjudicated, went through the process correctly, but unfortunately, these had no allocation whatsoever, in addition to the over-allocation or over-subscription that I can mention. So then the big question is, then what is going to happen to these people? They're also expecting their monies. So what Council did to consider administrative justice and also the constitutional rights of these beneficiaries, was then to think about how they could also be accommodated. And inadvertently, that meant that the guiding figure had to be downgraded to 10,895 to accommodate everyone. And as you all know by now, there is an uproar. There are some people who are not willing to accept this, but there are also others who are grateful for an amount of money that they can use or start the projects in their communities. So there's also another issue that I also want to clarify. I think this is the question that was asked by Mangoba, if I'm not mistaken, on the issue of overpayment. There is indeed at 2 levels of overpayments. We had applicants who were allocated more than what they had asked for, and some of these were already contracted. They had already received their first installment at 70% of the grant. So administratively, in the meantime, what council wants to do is to hold back on the 30% that is due to them whilst these investigations are taking place, so that we don't over-precipitate the issue and pay them the balance. At another level is those that had already been approved at the old guiding figure and had already been paid the 75%. Now, with the revised guiding figure, it actually means that they, in a way, got more than what they had requested. And as a result, we will also not be releasing the 30%, but we are hoping that with any additional money that we can get, we can be able to honor those original contracts that were approved. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. So before we wrap up, just to check if there are any questions from our Cape Town studios, or can I move on to the WhatsApp messages? Okay.
I have a few questions here. The first one from Marvin Charles from News 24. Minister, can you clarify what you mean that funds from NAC were overcommitted? How long will that forensic investigation take place? And what is your response to the creatives who want to resign?
Today?
Creatives who want to resign.
Who want you to resign?
Yes. And then Pumzi Zuzile from Sunday Times. Can Minister say what the terms of reference for investigation? How much of the 300 million has been paid already? Can the Minister name those who have been paid and how much they have been paid? This is a sign of transparency. I have Molimo from SABC TV News. Minister, you have also pointed to people who have applied, but you have received more than what they have applied for. How much are you talking about here? Is the money going to be retrieved from them? And I have Christian from Network 24. Minister, the NAC received 100 million, but needs about double that amount to fund all the applications they approved. As you stated, who is going to fund the shortfall if Treasury declined to do so? Have you considered using funds from phase 2 of the PESP, as we're currently still in phase 1?
All right, thank you very much, Ignatius.
I have only one question.
One more, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Will the NAC disclose who was on their independent expert panel? that adjudicated and approved projects, is the deadline for the projects to be implemented still 31st of March? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Ignatius. So we will allow for Minister and the panel of people who are here. Once again, the ADG is here, the Acting Director General, Vusumuzi Mkhize, Vusitemba Ndima. I'm sorry. And we also have the DDG here, Dr. Cynthia Khumalo. And of course, we have the acting CEO of the NAC as well. So we will spread out the questions amongst them, because some questions are most relevant to be answered by the NAC, others perhaps by the ADG, and others by the DDG, and perhaps others by the Minister himself. So, ladies and gentlemen, in closing, I will allow for the Minister to come to the platform, and perhaps he will guide me from here. Minister, who should come on first? Oh, all right. Let's start with the acting CEO, and then we'll have she will introduce the ADG, and then he will introduce the DDG, and then the Minister, Nathi Mthethwa, will close off. Thank you.
Good afternoon once more, colleagues. I will take a few questions. One of the questions from Pumzi says, how much has been paid? We are here to declare that by Friday, last week on the 26th of March, we have paid 62.7 million rands to 505 beneficiaries that have returned and signed their contracts. In addition, there is a question on whether we can disclose who was on the independent panel. For those who may know, the NAC, in reviewing applications, appoints panels of experts which are nominated by the arts sector that the council then approves. So we do have names of such who presided over these applications. It's not a secret. They are well known because they were nominated by the sector. In terms of the question that was also asked by Garabo with regard to is the deadline still 31st of March 2021, we were fortunate to get an extension from National Treasury to continue with the implementation of the program until the 31st of May 2021. Thank you. Tindiji.
Thank you, Acting CEO. I just think that maybe let me address myself to the timeline for the forensic investigation. It's not going to be possible for us to prejudge that process, but one doesn't expect it to be long because it's very focused. It's focused on the PESP. So, but we cannot give you a clear timeline in terms of saying by this time it would have been completed, but it doesn't have to be the longest of processes. And then, of course, the terms of reference, we are working on them and we are finalizing them. In fact, we have started working on them and they would be finalized by the end of the week. Even if I wanted to share with you the terms of reference, that's a procurement process that I cannot disclose publicly, but I think suffice it to say that they are being finalized and we should then be able to go out and procure the services. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I am Dr. Khumalo, as introduced earlier on, the DDG within the Department for Arts, Culture, Promotion and Development. I think it's just to emphasize because some of the questions that have been read out were responded to earlier on when the Minister was responding together with the Acting Director General and the CEO. I think in terms of the investigation, the Acting Director General has already appointed a team within the department that would be working quite urgently, effective from today, on the terms of reference that will then inform the procurement process, as the minister did indicate that this is actually going through a procurement process. There is a team that is led by the head of internal audit within the department that actually already has been set up and will start immediately to work on these terms of reference. ADG has spoken to the issue of the timeline. It's a bit difficult in advance to estimate that, but however, we would, once there's an appointment of the forensic investigators, ensure that we work on specific turnaround times to ensure that this process can be expedited but be thoroughly executed. The acting CFO, I believe, has actually responded to the issue of the payment. Yes, the commitment was that payment would be processed by end of March. In terms of the report that we get on daily basis from NAC as a department, all those contracts that would have been received are being processed. I think the Acting Director General did indicate the figures together with the Acting CFO. So we are not sitting with any of the returned, the signed and returned contracts unprocessed. We have indicated, as the Acting Director General said earlier on, that those will be processed, the balance of 318 that we are sitting with that have already been returned to us. It needs to be understood that these numbers are also changing almost on every minute and every hour. So as and when the contracts are being received by NAC, they actually urgently being attended to upon receipt of those. I think let me stop the Acting DG and Minister in terms of the responses that I could add to what has been responded to already.
Thank you very much. I think the questions, some of the questions which came on the second round had been responded to during the first round. One area which I thought I needed to respond to is the ones who've been given more than what they wanted, who applied for a certain amount and they were given more. The total of that is 4.8 million rands, which is extra to what people had wanted. But also I must say that even though it's a question which has not been asked, that there is a process of investigating possible duplication and of people who may be in a process or a possibility of getting more within their area, as it were, because of the adjustments which are being done with regards to the shortfall. A lot of things are being reviewed, even people who have been, promised to get money from multi sources, as it were. That is being looked into and being reviewed. I want to end by saying that we know that this is a difficult situation. We understand and we also empathize with people who are at the coal face, because the creative sector itself has been a very vulnerable sector under normal circumstances. It's a sector which it's very difficult for it to survive on its own. It needs a lot of support and so on. With COVID-19, things have just gone multifold in terms of the difficulties they are faced with. But as we said when we started, that as government and as the department, we'll always look at what is it that we can do to engage and assist the sector broadly, but also, ease the burden the sector is faced with. And on that score, we really once more commit ourselves that we are going to get to the bottom of this, that people cannot just suffer and there's no consequence. Consequence management is going to be realized. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. And thank you so much to our Acting Director General, Ntate Vusithemba Ndima, as well as our Deputy Director General, Dr. Cynthia Khumalo, and the Acting CEO of the National Arts Council, Julie Dipofa. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who were not able to get your questions through, feel free to send an email to masachaba@dsac.gov.za or to forward your further questions to the NAC for any other further inquiries as well. We thank you very much for your time.